Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond eCommerce, where we help you find and fund your passion through Amazon reselling. Thank you guys for coming in with me today. So we have revamped, and I'm so thankful to be in this space where there is clarity and some more. And I wanted to give you guys an update on the podcast. So one of the biggest elements of the podcast is Amazon, right? Reselling, purchasing items, and things of that sort. But I started to realize that these items were so uninspiring to me, right? These items are just like, okay, they pay the bills, they build the business, and things like that. But it doesn't really necessarily help me impact others in the way I desire to. So a couple of the other elements that we're going to be adding into the show is culture, and the other one is mindset. So when I think of my childhood, there are particular people that really helped frame my mindset and helped frame the way I look at the world, good or bad. One of those people that I grew up with and has really impacted the way I think about interacting with people, raising my son, being there for my husband, and things like that is God, is Jesus. So I have really brought him back into our world. I've been really thoughtful about the way he is incorporated and helping my son navigate this space that he's never been to before. We were on the way to church, and my son kept on saying, church. And I was like, church? And he's like, church? What is church? And I told him, it's a place where we come and we thank God and we really show our thankfulness and gratefulness as far as being able to connect with others and share like-mindedness. That's not something that you can do in many places. And on top of that, you are able to be in a place where you fellowship, you talk about money, you talk about all these good things that have happened to your life, and with people that are also dealing with the same thing. A lot of times we get around family and we don't necessarily have that same, yoke. And that is because we are all in a different space, we are all in a different walk. So being in a space where you're dealing with someone that even if they're not walking in the light in the way they should be. So Jesus. And the other thing is culture, right? Definitely going to be bringing in more indie brands and people that have started up, but they have a little bit of a following, or people that appreciate the distinct nature of their work, of their product. They have so much effort into it. So when I think of culture, I think of art, and I think of, shirts, and I think of candles, and I think of all these different ramifications of ways that your product can become unique. I don't know if you guys watched the show Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta now, but I watched it before. And Atlanta is written by Donald Glover. And I love the show mostly because of its development, its layers, the ability for you to have a talking point as far as Atlanta. And you could do episode 1, episode 2, and sometimes they're in line, but then they're also distinctly different in the way you engage and talk about these episodes. So in Atlanta, I watched the episode with Childish Gambino or Donald Glover, and he was saying one of the distinct things that he did for his show was to have artwork. And that artwork was distinctive because the eye was in a certain place and their faces were distorted. And I think that also went into a lot of what the season is about. So the art is really speaking to the development or the evolution of the show, and I absolutely love it. So with culture, seeing that art, seeing that side that somebody has poured into, that's not a word, that somebody has poured into, given their all, and it's not like this, this was really neutral, or this was really minimalistic, and I played into a trend. We all know trends are only going to go so far. So in that, we added culture, we'll be adding art. We do have a guest coming up, and his shirts are distinctive in the way that it incorporates several articles into his t-shirts. And I absolutely love them because for me it's nostalgia, and I'm not even going to give it too much, but there is many more stories that come along with nostalgia opposed to, oh, this shirt is really minimalistic. I have a t-shirt or what have you, and that t-shirt has 3 words on it, and oh my gosh, I was awestruck. Honestly, I don't know a t-shirt or a hoodie in which I've seen, 3 words, and I've just been awestruck. Words say what they say, but the stories, the development, the pictures, you cannot beat that. So his shirts really reminded me of when I was younger, and my mother and her boyfriend would always play Tupac, and just riding in the back of my mom's Buick Regal, and he's playing, Hail Mary Tupac. It's giving me very like West Side Tupac sort of vibes, that space that Aaliyah was in and the calligraphy that came along with it. We called it those little S's, 3 lines and then 3 lines and then connected them. We called them those little S's, but when it came down to it, it became calligraphy. We wanted to write everything like that. And then once we got through with the S, sometimes we would try other letters and things like that, that the development of the artists or people that think along those lines, what they take it to is what I appreciate, because that's a step nobody else would go to. And even combining several elements to make a particular statement opposed to one minimalistic, I personally love it. So I'm excited about that. That's my tangent about culture. We know about Amazon. We know Amazon is a starting point, and Amazon is somebody else's brand that they built up from the ground. And this is really important to me because I know a lot of people that have ideas, they have thoughts. We most certainly, me and my husband, we talk about ideas, thoughts, products, things of that sort all the time. But how do they come to life? How do you get funded with them? How do you prove to someone that you're really about this life and that they should invest in you? And the only answer I really have for that is time. With time that you've shown that you've been faithful with few, you've shown that even with the small amount that you have taken, you've put in your all into it. You help others. Nobody wants anything more than to be able to put into someone's life and say, hey, they gave, we gave. I know you're going to do well with this that I gave you. It's something that I have in overflow, and I would absolutely love for you to use this money, tool, resource to improve it. So Amazon is going to help us build our project, our products. We have so many ideas that are really stepping stones. And you guys, if you're just tuning in, our stepping stones are reselling with arbitrage, right? You start out $250 to $500. And then you move on to wholesaling, which wholesaling is going to run you a couple $100s to a couple $1,000. And the return is 15 to 20%, right? But if we have a cake and we want that cake to be layered, we want it to be solid, then we have those arbitrage items at the bottom. It's there, but it isn't really gonna, it's not gonna get that sweet tooth. We go on to wholesale. And wholesale is around, I would say 15 to 25% also. And you add that layer on and it's like, okay, we're getting somewhere. I might have added, some strawberries in there. I love me a good strawberry shortcake. And it's getting somewhere. The next step up, we would say, is private label. And private label is not necessarily something that you have to be passionate about. It just needs to be something that you've researched and is selling well, and it has sold well over at least a year. It's not a seasonal product. It's something that may be attached to people that they need all the time, like toilet tissue, like necessities, possibly a bowl, but that bowl isn't, just a bowl. You have a whole brand developed around it. They see, kids eating out of the bowl, or they see people that only eat good, healthy bowls of food. Like, oh my gosh, this bowl is so sturdy. It's also recyclable. When you add in those particular points and you're talking to an audience, that's when it'll sell. But I say this to say, that is for necessities. What are particular items that sell all day, all year? Spatulas. We're talking about, cameras. We're talking about, couches or what have you. And we start small, right? It's small and light. That it's going to ship way cheaper. It's going to land way quicker. All of that. And then you start to build on that. So now your cake has arbitrage, your cake has wholesale, and your cake has a private label item. Now, if one of the layers kind of falls or flattens and it doesn't have as much spoof as the others, okay, if it's in the middle, we might notice a little bit. If it's at the top, we'll notice a little bit. But you have to realize that you still have those two layers, right? So it's definitely still edible. You can still eat it. 1 month, it might be just icing on the top, and you got to crank it back up, especially if you run out of inventory. That's a good problem, but not a consistent problem that you want to have. Now, the space that we are really walking in and we are excited about is that last layer, which is a passion product. And this is the item that people skip to Shopify, and they want this big following and they want these people to, be interested in the product, and they skip to this and they haven't done any market research, and or they've had to pay a marketing agency to kind of get this thing off of the ground. And I'm saying these agencies are not cheap unless you do something overseas, but we've tried that and it just was not giving. So we have a passion product, and we are building out the prototype right now, right before your very eyes. As we get our trademarking back and things like that, then we will of course share with you. But we are excited because these ideas, these moments, these bursts of energy that we have, a lot of times we haven't been able to really hone in that energy and turn it into a physical product. But when we hone that energy in, we use all of the things that we have been taught and we have been given and we have been gifted, and we start nurturing that seed, and we see the human manifestation or the physical manifestation of those products. A huge relief. So that is the Amazon side. And then the mindset side. So we're going to be covering a lot of information on mindset. How do we get to where we are? And our journey took a little longer because we went through the debt-free route. And on the debt-free route, we realized that it just was not fulfilling. I'm saying, guys, I had a friend, and this friend, he's such a good guy. He is such a good guy. And I have to admit that I had a lot of Gemini energy around the relationship, mostly because I knew that he was a coworker. And when we separated and I went to a different school, I knew that's where I really had been, but he was such a good guy. We had so much fun. Things like that are hard to let go. And I also realized for me, I have to hate a person to let them go. I'm not gonna, let us leave on good terms and just be what it is. So even after our lives went in separate ways, I inserted my life back into his life. And it really honestly caused more chaos, caused more confusion. But one of the ways I knew that we weren't equally yoked is because I was going through a difficult time with my sexuality. And I do believe that anytime you are going through spiritual warfare, it comes in different angles, and it came in different angles for me. And one of those angles was my sexuality. And when I spoke to him about it, he was like, hey, your husband agrees with this. This is something that he's okay with, and you should most certainly do it. And for me, I was like, there is plenty of opportunities for you to be glutinous and for you to do more with what God has given to you. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're being a good steward, right? Being gluttonous over that. And I had a mental breakdown after that. It was like my sexuality was something I was dealing with at the time. My sister and our relationship, if y'all watch the video, a couple of videos back, our relationship was tarnished. I felt that she chose her boyfriend over our relationship. And long story, but also I was dealing with so much at my job and otherwise that I ended up quitting teaching and was like, I will figure this out. I don't know how or where or why it's going to happen, but I have to bet on myself for my sanity. And in that time, those three things, along with also dealing with a partnership in the Amazon business that got us suspended several times on Amazon and on Walmart, that these things all together, I had to go through a mindset shift. And that's when I started connecting more with God and Jesus and was like, this feels good to me. And I don't care what the world says, but I need some type of peace in my life. So we're going to call that the CAM space. And we talk about various things and we'll have various guests and kind of expand it out from there. So I just wanted to hop in and have a little update with you guys concerning the future of our podcast, what exactly we'll be covering, how this will be connected with you. And I hope and pray that the information that is portrayed to you on this podcast is bringing fulfillment, enlightenment, inspiration to your life as it has brought it into ours. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time.